Alright, happy Independence Day again, even if it's not an American introducing, because for once I got an idea of something. We're going through the Independence Day movies, and again, maybe another year we will do really Mars Attacks or something, who knows. But for the time being, let's do something slightly cheeky and have something that is tied to the Independence Day, but not really at the same time. An adaptation of a book in short format that Disney did in 1953, called Ben and Me. In recent years, the founding fathers have come under question for obvious reasons, particularly Thomas Jefferson, if I remember correctly. But the one that always fascinated me the most was Benjamin Franklin, mostly because, Washington was the commander, Jefferson was more like, a lawyer, so someone good with words, but Benjamin Franklin was more of a scientist, an inventor, someone, that will discuss also about philosophy with Voltaire in France, stuff like that. So there was a scientific aspect to it. So someone at some point wrote a book about a small imagining. What if Benjamin Franklin instead was influenced by the ideas of a little innocent mouse that had immigrated in America? And Disney eventually made a short. You will see that probably this was supposed to be an entire complete movie at one point, but had to be retooled as a short because this goes very quickly, and you will feel that some sequences should have been stretched a bit more. But you will
I
see.
actually do have a fun fact about that. I saw this movie way back in like elementary school as a kid, and
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I honestly remembered it as a movie and not a short.
I did grow up with this, but I don't remember which VHS. But anyway, not too much beat around the bush. Unfortunately, this is not on Disney Plus as far as we checked, which is kind of a shame.
Mhm.
But we did find a video on YouTube that's been there since 2016, but who knows when, for how long it will remain. But the short is easy to come by on the internet if you look around. So start on the black screen, which is like 1 second before the Walt Disney production, image, starts. So start in 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it's been around since 2015, which makes me wonder if it's a case where Disney just haven't gotten around to putting this on Disney Plus, or for some reason they don't care about this, kind of like
The way,
Runaway Brain.
And
oh,
yeah,
Sterling Holloway is the
yes,
narrator, of course.
And
He
he also
is.
plays the main character, the little mouse. Because I do, okay, while not exactly identical, I do also wonder if this inspired the people who made Ratatouille. Because while not direct controlling indirectly, the relationship that is between the mouse and Ben Frank, and the idea of how the mouse inspires Ben
Um,
Frank to do things is a bit reminiscent of that.
and yeah, Ken Anderson did the art direction, of course.
The animation, as you will see, since it's the 50s, is reminiscent, of course, of the movies that were done around the time, namely Cinderella and Peter Pan.
If there was one thing Walt Disney was, it was indeed a patriot, so I'm not surprised we got a whole short dedicated to the Declaration of Independence.
The book goes in a slightly different direction and basically says that talks about the events of when Ben Frank went to Versailles in order to negotiate with the King of France for for asking for the help of France during the Independence War.
I really have to wonder, was this the only voice Sterling Holloway did? Because he always sounds like Winnie the Pooh.
I guess. But okay, this initial segment was not present really in the version in the copy that I watched, believe it or not. It's a relatively short initial segment that talks about how our protagonist Amos, talking about his family and how they grew up in jolly old British Empire before they emigrated to the US.
Like, imagine if this guy had to narrate more like mature stuff, and then Gollum just killed Frodo. Oh bother! Yeah,
Also, hey,
that's not a
Lucifer.
Yeah,
Winnie
it's
the Pooh
basically he
impression, but
just
yeah.
palette swap Lucifer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Pedro ain't kidding. Sterling Holloway really. I have to wonder, is that how he sounded like in real life too, Winnie the Pooh?
I
I mean,
don't know.
it's kind of a shame. Like, he probably has done plenty more roles, but let's be honest, these days he's most recognized as the Winnie the Pooh narrator in Winnie the Pooh. Oh, and also Ka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sterling Holloway was basically the Mel Blanc of Disney at the time.
Oh, wait, hold on. He could do a different voice. He was Adult Flower in Bambi.
Oh yeah. Wait, he was Adult Flower?
Yep.
I haven't watched
Oh,
Bambi
okay.
with its original dub so in a long time, so I don't remember how the
He
voices
sounds
are.
way different as
Yeah,
Adult
yeah.
Flower.
Definitely. Okay, in case, okay.
So yeah, Almost Family
He
is a
probably still
sorry,
did.
no.
Sorry, go on. He probably still didn't have the same range as Jim Cummings, probably, but I guess that's good enough.
Almost Family is a tradition also for the art. So,
You,
specialize in a bit of everything.
let me guess. One of them also influenced Leonardo da Vinci.
Well, no, they did started in the British Empire, in the British Empire, proper in the British Islands. So, and yeah, judging from the head, this one decided to tuck tail literally because of the overgrowing population of cats.
Wait a minute, hold on. Mice going to America to get away from cats. I don't know if that could work for the plot of a movie. What do you think, Steven Spielberg?
Ah,
The caging of all cats. It's a good thing
yes.
Shir is not here.
Yeah, the most. This'll get him on side. A petition.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
Southampton.
it clearly didn't work, Wibbs, because they decided to just go away.
There are no cats in America, after all.
Sure.
Ha! Same boat.
Literally.
Also, the animation techniques used back then.
Yeah, this was slightly cheaper, this particular sequence. And yeah, it turns out that it was the Mayflower with the first pilgrims. Not sure, if it's a good or a bad thing, but at least the mice seems to be overall.
It's nice that they're going into all these details, but I'm surprised that we don't just start this,
Yeah.
with Ben, given that it's called Ben and Me. And
That's
yeah,
because it's just a short sequence in order to get to this point. So the mouse protagonist here, Amos, which also tells about his life of encountering Benjamin Franklin. And yeah, the version that they watch started with this, and you can clearly see because the animation is slightly better.
so I'm guessing. So the intro is like an addition, essentially.
I don't know about that, Drova.
I get the feeling it's probably because usually the more commonly available version of this short is like one that removes those bits, and the person who made this edit put in whatever best possible version of those bits were just to make a complete version of the short. Because for whatever reason, I'm guessing Disney usually releases this short incomplete. It wouldn't be the first time they do something like this, sadly.
So yeah,
I'm
one
guessing
of
with
the
this-
things, one of the immediate things that will make you think, oh, this probably should have been an entire movie. Amos' family, the one that is current, his siblings, and his parents and everything, is not really much elaborated upon. They don't really have, personalities. It's just there to establish that he's part of a big family and wants to make career on his own.
Not just that, but from what I do recall, I recall the movie definitely the short spans over a good course of time too, which
Yes,
feels like it would have been better suited to a movie.
So yeah, we are operating on slightly Studio Ghibli logic in a sense that while, not super common, there is a degree of suspension of disbelief that a talking mouse is not the most outlandish thing ever.
Love how the lady was more concerned with him being a mouse than the fact that he was a mouse that talked, was able to knock on the door, and was wearing clothes.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't know anything about history, Ben Frank did started out as a printer, a bit of a newspaper, owner, although his beginning was a bit rough.
Hmm. You may not know it, but That is apparently what the ladies were into.
Yeah, no kidding. Again, according to the history records, the French ladies in Versailles were particularly attracted to that specimen of a man. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not like super ugly or anything, but I
He,
wonder.
he had massive game, apparently.
I guess the
Oh boy.
charisma, because again, hanging out with Voltaire.
Hmm.
Open up the door. Taking his what?
They're probably just gonna
Yeah.
text stuff.
So Ben has 24 hours to to sell this amount of copies of his new paper.
You know, obviously the execution is all times different, but this feels like something the makers of that Christopher Columbus shitty movie would make.
I was about to say, Pedro, yes, this has some similarities with the Magic Voyage when you get down to
That's
it.
it, Magic Voyage. For some reason, I was blanking on the name, but yeah, the overall premise feels eerily similar.
I can tell you this
Yes.
is much more whimsical and less racist.
Oh, no, I'm sure it is. I just find it interesting.
Like, I've actually seen it a few times where a short or movie will come up with the idea of, hey, you know this historical event, especially bonus points if it's something to do with America? Well, it turns out a little critter had to deal with that, essentially.
And apparently
You
the
know-
creator in question is just really well knowledged for no reason. So yeah, one of the early inventions, quote unquote, from Franklin, the decentralization of a heating system for the house, rather than to be stuck with, the usual fireplace.
I can't see. Oh, why do we have to live in a world where the black smoke is so thick we can actually hold on to it?
Well,
There
you're in
you
a
go.
Disney short,
Much
so
better.
that's the case.
Okay, that's the other thing. He may be voiced by Sterling Holloway, but he's literally just hold on.
Bifocal lens, yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, Seamus may be voiced by Sterling Holloway, but looks he is literally just Jock from
Yeah.
from Cinderella. He's literally just Jock.
well, we did see Lucifer earlier. All that's missing now is the Cinderella lookalike.
So where's Gus Gus?
Amos works alone for this, although he's really willing just to give a hand to Ben.
I guess he considers it a job.
I feel like
Oh,
for a mouse
nicely.
of this particular stature, I feel like Sterling Holloway's voice maybe not be the best fitting. I'm not saying he has to sound exactly like Jock, but I don't know. I feel like a voice a bit more high pitched than this probably would have fit better.
So yeah, Amos is gonna go around gathering information and then Ben will print them. That DMZ early 18th centuries, the M stands for mouse.
It's almost the equivalent of having a fly on the wall. This expose will be juicy.
Basically.
Like, it's not the time of the Revolutionary War yet, so yeah. The old days of the printing press
the
where you had
miracle
to
of a
put
printing
in.
press. A bit of a pain in the ass to actually prepare it, but once everything was in place, at the very least.
Imagine doing a misspell here.
Wah, wah.
Ah, crap, I misspelled Lars here.
If this was a Warner Brothers short,
No.
they would just play Powerhouse.
It would have also had a sequence where he was flattened into an iron probably by this. Ah, there we go.
There we are.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Why indeed?
The Pennsylvania.
Like, everyone wants to read the newspaper. Holy shit.
Well,
it's
news
a
be
novel.
power.
It's a novel thing, so
Mm-hmm.
It was a good passing time, and again, people want knowledge.
remember to once upon a time people were blown away by a movie that's just a train arriving at a station, nothing more.
True.
So
Like how the Felix the Cat show was amazing because it was doing amazing stuff for the time, essentially, whereas nowadays it is insanely basic.
So yeah, also Amos can also help Ben to socialize, actually.
Do not tell me it was because of a mouse that Benjamin
Yes, of
Franklin
course,
generated that legendary
yeah.
Riz.
this
More
this
like-
is why it does go a bit like turns out the only reason Benjamin Franklin became as big as a successful person as he was because there was a talking mouse helping him.
Do you
That sounds
think?
like those stories where if someone told them they get thrown straight into one of those asylums.
Okay, it works here, whereas Magic Voyage failed because at
This
the
is
very
much
least,
more charming at the very least, and doesn't
Yes.
trying to claim that's what the true history happened.
yeah, I mean, this is obviously more tongue-in-cheek, obviously, about the whole thing, so...
Even the original book was intended more, as a comedy of sorts.
This is based off of a book.
Yes,
Neat.
like I said, the book is slightly different because it also adapts the part where Ben went to France, which is sadly not covered here.
God, okay, that makes even more of a surprise that this wasn't a full-length movie, because usually whenever they were adapting
Again, I
books...
watched this recently before this commentary, and yeah, it kind of screams that they wanted to make it a full movie but couldn't.
I
Who
could see
knows?
this getting...
Maybe there is a parallel reality where this got a theatrical movie, but
Was
Peter
this
Pan
was this
didn't.
played? Was this played before any of the big Disney films?
It might have been,
Probably.
yes. So yeah, another
let
thing
me
that
check.
Ben loved to experiment with electricity, although, as you can see, kind of overstepped a bit his boundaries. Piece of shit.
Ah,
I mean, yeah, Benjamin Franklin could be a bit, sly, shall we
Opportunistic.
say.
And here's the iconic kite experiment.
He's trying to capture the so-called lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, as you'll recall, Benjamin Franklin received a bit of a zap from this, which is how he really discovered electricity.
Those you see, Webbs, little did you know that William Shakespeare did not write Hamlet entirely on his own. He actually got inspiration from his friend, a talking...
Actually, Pedro, according
was
to
on it.
Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series, he got inspiration from the embodiment of dreams.
Mm.
Good lord.
the request in exchange, Dream actually asked him two plays: the Storm and A Midsummer's Night Dream.
You see, guys, Abraham Lincoln was inspired by a rat. to
Actually,
set
Abraham
this-
Lincoln was a vampire hunter, Jova, don't you know?
Of course, silly me. And George Washington was also busy fighting zombies too.
No, I got it. You see, Dwibs. Charles Dickens wrote Oliver Twist because he was heavily inspired by his friend, a talking kangaroo. Little did you know.
Of course, and did you know that Roald Dahl created Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with assistance from his gerbil?
So, yeah, Emil says, go through a lot.
A lot of the great geniuses of history were curiously always inspired by talking animals.
So, yeah, understandably,
Crazy, right?
Emil's just quits, and I don't blame him.
Fuck you!
That'll
Basically.
wear off eventually.
None of those you have to do the Winnie the Pooh voice. Fuck
I
you.
can't. I
That's
can't
the
really do that.
that's
Oh,
the,
so he went
Oh,
back to his
fuck you
family.
all,
yeah,
guys.
to his church again.
That's actually fine. But
And then the revolution started.
Yep.
And yeah, unlike in Anastasia, where it's painted as, just the cause that Rasputin decided to do with black magic and not about, the revolt of the working class out of frustration. No, this is actually, talk more or less in a genuine way. So yeah, Frank tried to negotiate with the King of England, but the British Empire, but as you can imagine, things did not go exactly well. Sadly, Joe, we're technically spared from a scene about the Boston Tea Party, but what can you do?
That's okay.
In fact, we don't really see much of the other founding fathers. There's no George Washington in this.
I get it. It's Ben and me, so stick with Ben.
It's more like, again, point of view from just strictly Amos most of the time. So this thing also serves to establish that, yes, Amos still technically cares of what's going on. And, feels a bit of a pity for Ben.
Also, yes, you can see time has passed because Ben is now sporting
Yeah.
his iconic white hair.
But there's still the fact what he did, so... Again, it's kind of understandable for Amos. It cannot just, immediately forget everything. Until one fateful night.
Yep, 1776. Amos, you were doxxed and I've come to find you.
Amos, come up
You
here,
know-
Amos.
You never actually properly resigned, Davis, so you're still in my employ.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that, Dwaves, because in order to avoid any more, tomfoolery, Amos kind of has an idea.
Well, don't grab my tail then, you dick.
So yeah, basically Amos wants to do a contract, a proper one at that, but he needs to find the right words.
But yeah, like I said, this is definitely why I remembered this thing as a movie, since it was the best way for me to rationalize how we go from Ben being relatively in his younger years to him clearly in his older years.
Also, classic thing, as a kid, the products like these seems much longer.
Yes, that too. Oh, and don't get used to having too much tea. The Britons are starting to charge exorbitant prices for it. We're thinking of dumping it.
This writing's tiny. I can't possibly read it.
That's what. Suddenly, Thomas Jefferson.
Yay, yes. Is that Hans Conrad?
I don't know.
Sounds like Captain Hook, so that could be Hans Conrad.
So yeah, Thomas Jefferson needs to find the right way to start, a good speech to the soon-to-be independent United States, but cannot seem to find the right words.
Also, yes, that is Hans Conrad.
Captain Hook, you mean, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear it actually. Yeah.
Fun fact, actually, the reason Corey Burton does such a good Captain Hook is because he was apparently a prodigy to Hans Conrad.
Alright, check this out. Yes, Abel's contract inspires the initial words of the Declaration of Independence.
Of course they do.
I love this. It's so stupid, but I love this.
Yes.
It's a good job he didn't write down his shopping list, and that was the Declaration of Independence.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't just the want for progress and change that inspired President Obama. No, he was inspired to run by his good friend,
Hey, Amos.
a talking cat.
Hey, Amos, while you're ready, wanna do something about slavery, maybe? No?
Nah, we're gonna have to wait till Lincoln does that.
Damn it.
But don't you see, Theo? It was Amos's grandchildren that inspired Lincoln that maybe slavery isn't that great.
I suppose.
So
And
you
maybe
see,
the Confederacy had pet cats.
Yeah, slavery's a bit of a bummer.
So you see, Dwibs, the reason America went to war with your country to free us from the taxes was because a mouse effectively convinced us to.
How are your leaders not all locked up for being insane? We did it because the mice told us to do it.
Americans seem to be pretty useless without their talking mice friends.
Is this how we're... Yeah, actually, no, I'm not going to go there.
You see, suddenly American Tail makes all the more sense.
I guess so, yes.
Alright, that's pretty much it. So, final thoughts. Please.
It was fine. I mean, it's certainly a unique twist on how a major historical event. It turns out the Declaration of Independence was inspired by a mouse. It'd be like how Bonfire Night was actually it wasn't a guy named Guy Fawkes who tried to blow up Parliament. It was actually a mouse trying to do it.
There you go.
That would have been a bit weird. The animations, well, it's Disney peak, to animation wise at this point, so of course it's going to be good. I assume Walt produced this.
I don't know.
It's 1953, so yeah, he was still
technically alive, so yeah.
Okay. One thing to keep in mind was that Walt was kind of going through a midlife crisis around this time, I believe, which is what eventually led to him making Disneyland. Because, hey, would a depressed person make a theme park? I think not. But I do know that at some point, while Walt still owned everything, I do know there was a point where his interests were less with making the movies and more in making eventually his own utopia, Epcot, which became Disney World. But I digress.
Yeah, really. Honestly, there's not really much to say about it. It's a really good short. Although I can't imagine how it would have carried on with other major historical events.
Well, okay. What helps is, like, aside from the fact that a mouse is there, it's not really inaccurate history-wise for the most part.
The only thing, of course, that is what we noticed, the fact that, Benjamin Franklin, it gives the idea that Benjamin Franklin couldn't have done anything without this kind of external help. But it's part of the suspension of disbelief, considering it's the entire premise and everything.
Yeah.
Alright, and that's it.
All right, Pedro.
No, this was pretty enjoyable. Again, very campy, but at the same time enjoyable, like I said. And for the time that it was made, this is expected. One thing I like to say is that we didn't say this because some of the voice actors, there were some of the miscellaneous men that we hear, like reading newspapers like that, were voiced by Jimmy McDonald, aka the second voice of Mickey Mouse. So that's interesting. And yes, like Jova said, yes, Thomas Jefferson is voiced by Ernst Conrad, and Bill Thompson played Governor Keefe. Okay.
Oh, I believe he's Shmi, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Cute,
So
a
basically,
bit of a
this was a
Peter Pan reunion.
kind of, yeah. We also have Stan Freberg as the mouse guide from the beginning. So okay, that's interesting.
Also,
like
kudos to the mice. They literally built a miniature mouse statue atop the head of the Ben Franklin statue.
But yeah, it's yeah, from what I'm seeing here, apparently the last official release that this short had was the 1989 VHS, and that's it basically. It's a maybe it's in some DVD compilation of shorts. Maybe I'll have to look.
It is apparently on DVD under the 2012 Disney Generations collection.
Yeah, right. It was released as a part of a collection. That makes sense. Yeah. As for the short itself, yeah, it sounds, it seems good, like for what it is and what it's trying to do. Like, it's funny, the whole concept of this rat basically doing a lot of things because Ben Franklin is apparently a completely useless moron without him is funny, I guess. That being said, I do have to reiterate what I was saying earlier. I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Sterling Holloway, who doesn't, right? But at the same time, I feel like it was probably a bit miscast as this role. I mean, I don't know. When I look at a mouse like that, okay, let me say, if Amos looked like Gus instead of Jacques, maybe I would have bought it better. But I feel like Sterling Holloway's Winnie the Pooh voice is a bit out of place in a mouse like this. I don't know. It feels like this. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to Cinderella. And when I look at a Cinderella mouse, I expect a high pitched voice. So Sterling Holloway just doing his usual Winnie the Pooh voice feels a bit off for me.
I personally feel it fits, but I do wonder. Do you think that maybe Disney really liked his Winnie the Pooh voice and requested to use that? Because again, I know he can do different voices.
Well, the Winnie the Pooh movie came out after this, if I recall correctly.
Well, I'm talking specifically about the voice. Like, maybe he used that voice for whatever at some point, and like, Disney and the studio liked that voice so much that that's the voice that they more or less hired him for after Bambi.
Yeah, I get that. That's the feeling I get because outside of Adult Flower, every time I hear Sterling Holloway in a Disney movie production, it's always his Winnie the Pooh voice, like all of the
narrator from Peter and the Wolf.
He was Kaa in the Jungle Book, the Cheshire Cat,
and even when he did Kaa, he sounds just like Winnie the Pooh. That's the thing. Like,
he was also the mouse from the Aristocrats as well, and if I recall correctly, he used the Pooh voice in that too.
Yeah, I get the feeling people over there in the Disney really love that voice, and they just asked them like, I kind of wish they would have allowed him to, try out different voices. Like we said, he can do it. Like, but for some reason, people over there really just do the Winnie the Pooh voice. But oh well. That being said, yeah, it's pretty enjoyable, silly short, I guess. Sure, no real major complaints. I think like the music is really good because expected, and the animation is pretty charming. So yeah, pretty cool.
All right, Jova.
Yeah, no, this was a nice little delight to come back to. Again, it's something from my childhood, essentially, so it's interesting to come back and look at it with a proper lens, all in all. Again, it definitely is a good version of the more whimsical take on history in some regards here and there. It's silly and cheeky, but you get the feeling like they at least know what they're doing with it, rather than just trying to attract a childish audience, essentially, by throwing in insert talking animal, essentially, and corny jokes. Like, nah, this works overall. The cast that they got, I feel, is good for everything. I'm fine with Sterling Holloway using his poo voice for Amos. It's
Mhm.
fine. Yeah, the animation. Well, look, it's classic Disney animation. Yes, it's some of their cheaper animation, and they definitely reuse quite a few assets noticeably, but all in all, it's good asset reusal. Like, Disney, at least for the most part, I won't act like there weren't some that were just bad, but for the most part, Disney are good when they reuse assets to at least try and make something, unique enough. Or heck, when they're doing it as an homage, like in something like Princess and the Frog, essentially. But I digress. It's a really enjoyable movie overall. One fitting for the 4th of July.
All
Theo,
right, I'll
close us
conclude.
out.
Again, I grew up with this, and as a result, there is a bit of a nostalgia factor to it. Even if, once again, I'm not American, and you know me, I tend to, find occasions to take pot shots when I can. But again, this is just very charming as a story. Again, compared to the Magic Voyage, which loses itself in and meanders, not helped by the actual English gag dub that it got, so it's a double whammy on that front. This one just goes for a more soft and safe, technically, approach. Of course, they don't, while still technically talking about how the gravity of the revolution was, they do not go into detail on the more skeevy stuff or the complexity of them. Also because, in the 50s, it was more accepted, this kind of storytelling, rather than, a more analytical one that analyzed the good and the bad or something. It was more of a sense of optimism because the World War II was over at this point. So there is that. But again, it's still nice, and part of me really wish that it was longer, because again, you can see elements of it that probably would have been more developed. Again, Amos' actual family, a bit more time passing, between him and Ben. Also, the ones about the revolution, maybe the sequence where Ben goes to Versailles to ask help to the King of France, who knows? Maybe it would have happened. I wouldn't even mind a new adaptation on these days, not even necessarily by Disney themselves. Again, have, I don't know, Netflix do it. I think there is
It'd be
potential
interesting.
in doing this. Also, small trivia. It's not super noticeable because there's a lot of stuff going on in what I'm about to say, but I did caught them when I watched it the first time. Ben and Amos do appear in the Once Upon a Studio short that Disney did recently for its 100-year anniversary. They're in, aside from the group shots at the end, they're in one of the later shots of where maybe a couple of characters passing in the background, and Ben is also there. It's pretty cute, and also the fact that they technically still haven't forgot that he existed. It would be nice if this was actually properly released on Disney Plus in HD, but again, what can you do about it? Who knows, maybe in the future. Anyway, that's it for us. See you whatever next Independence Day related thing we'll do eventually. See ya.
See ya.